Okay, welcome. I'm Jaakko Akulinen and this is Principles of Programming Graphical User Interfaces. I hope everybody who planned to come here has found this place. First time for me to lecture on this corridor, but for some reason we were placed here. So yeah, today I will give sort of introduction to the course and the practical arrangements and start talking about some of the principles that are in the heart of this course. Tomorrow I will go into more concrete details. Well, I will inform you during this lecture about many of those things. So arrangements first. I'm Jaakko Akulinen. You can email me when necessary. You can find me in Pinnibee. I also teach multimodal interaction in human technology interaction course and doing 50-50 teaching and research. Moodle is used in this course. Hopefully everybody has access to it. If you register through NettiOpsu, then you should automatically have access there. And if somebody is still missing access to the Moodle, if you go to moodle.tuni.fi, it should be in your course list. Yeah, if somebody is still missing, send me email and I will take care of it one way or another. In the Moodle, you will find basically everything. The exercises that you will be doing during this course, they will be every week a set of exercises. You submit your solutions to those exercises in the Moodle. Meeting times are there. This arrangement information. I'm recording this lecture right now and streaming it online. There is a handful of people looking at this live, and I guess several people will be checking the recordings. So I will try to stand here near the microphone. And yeah, you can check the recordings for whatever reason you find it useful. I will link some materials, but of course, this day and age, you can just go around and Google, and there is huge amounts of material about this course topic available online. So I suggest that you look around and try to find the kind of materials which suit best your needs and learning styles and so on. I personally prefer to look into the official documentation and the formal documentation and try to guide you to reading those, but I'm not saying that don't find solutions from these numerous different sites you can find online and so on. I have in the Moodle a couple of quizzes, one for Java programming and one for JavaScript programming. Those are totally optional, and for your own purpose, you can do those quizzes and check out how well you do. They are by kind of by design reasonably hard. So if you get through those quizzes without any troubles, that means you will probably have very easy time on this course. And if you find those quizzes very hard, it doesn't mean that you cannot take this course or you will have lots of trouble. It just means that you probably need to do a little bit learning on some of the core concepts and key concepts and programming related concepts during this. And there is a discussion forum. It would be nice if people use that forum when they have the question, because when I answer into the forum, then everybody can find the answers. So use that when possible, and then use email when you have questions which you don't want to put into the public. Well, public meaning this group of people. A little bit larger, I think about half the people are here. So I will be giving lectures And this week is a little bit special, so this is generic lecture, and tomorrow I will be talking both about these 2 tracks, but after this, and I will talk about these tracks more. On Monday, I will be talking about Java effects, and on Tuesday about React. So pretty much everybody will probably choose one or another, and then you only need to participate in one of the lectures or check them online. It's not required to actually physically participate, but follow the lecture one way or another. So yeah, starting next week, depending on which track you are working on, either Monday or Tuesday is relevant to you. I will be doing some demo programs and describing some demo programs in these lectures, and of course those demo programs, they will be in the Moodle, and so that you can look at them when you have good time. Yeah, these recordings will be there, and I have in this course had different tracks in the history previous years. So there was Java Swing library used for many years, but it is used so little in real life that I upgraded a little bit this course, and we're talking about Java FX, which is another user interface library this year. React has been there for a couple of years, but previously it was this older React with component or class-based components, and now we are using function-based components purely, so it will be somewhat different from previous year. But feel free to check those materials if they are relevant to you. I also did 1 year for Android, but that ended up being more about the mobile programming and Android programming rather than the graphical user interface programming, so it doesn't seem to be a good choice for this class. And also the Python GK Inter track last year, but that's very, very old framework, so if Python will be used in the future, it will probably be some other user interface library. Old recordings are available in YouTube. You can find links in the Moodle in case somebody wants to see what I have been doing in the past. I think I will distribute these videos this year also through YouTube actually, but the Moodle is where you can access them, of course, but you can go directly to my YouTube profile as well. Navigation might be easier there. Remote participation is possible. As said, I'm not asking you to be present in these lectures or next about exercise meetings. They are a little bit different, but you can do this as a fully remote participation. So meaning, yeah, you don't need to be physically anywhere except you need to do an exam in the end. So remote participants can follow the meetings live via Zoom or afterwards using the lectures, and of course read the materials linked and use the discussion forums, and then, yeah, like everybody else, email me when that's the required choice. So if you want to participate remotely, you should email me. I have had a handful of emails telling me that people will be doing remote participation. If you haven't done so yet, please do if you know. But this is not time critical. You can do that at any point during the course if you find out during the spring that, okay, it's best to do this.
If you are partly here and partly remote?
I don't care. Yeah. So I'm not taking any attendance notes from these meetings. The exercise meetings are only thing that matters if you are actually physically there or not. And but I'm totally flexible. I just want to have a list of those people who are remote participants so that I know that they should take the exam, and I shouldn't give them credits before they have taken the exam in case they have done enough exercises that they could theoretically pass the course, and then I would give them too low grade. Yeah, and the points are where you get the credits from. I will talk about those next. It's a little bit complex, but it seems to have worked in the previous years, so I'm keeping the same system. So there can be higher or lower points, and remote participants will get the lower points, but they need to do that exam in the end, and then that will give them enough points to get the same maximum score in the end, so everybody can get the best grade if they can. And but there will be lots of time to do the remote exam in the end, so it will be electronic exam with the exam system, and because some people are like in study exchange or something, and they come back late in the spring or something, so there will be a long window when to take the exam, so it shouldn't be a limitation for anybody. Is there somebody here who know already that you will be remote participants? I guess most of those will are on offline, or checking this online, or checking the recording. But as I said, you can register for that also later. So this exam is for remote participants. It will contain, it will not contain programming exercises. It will be questions about the principles mostly, but they should be easy if the remote participant has done as much exercises as they should have. It's mostly about asking, okay, when you're doing the exercises, tell me one case where you have challenges with this thing or that thing, or how did you, how can you do this thing, something that you already did in the exercises. And yeah, so we have exercises each week, and these are also split into a couple of different options, because you have very different backgrounds and very different interests and very different goals, I think, at least that's my experience. So there will be, for each set, there are 3 small exercises, and then there is 1 big exercise, and these are meant to be mostly optional. So you choose one or another. If you are more advanced programmer, you can just do the big exercise, do 1 big exercise, get the same amount of points as those who do the 3 small exercises. So those big ones are more challenging, but then hopefully they are more interesting to those who find things easy. And then those who are not so experienced programmers and who need to do more learning, I kind of recommend to do the small exercises, because they are more smaller, 1 by 1 learning path, do the very same things. But you can actually do both of them, so you can get 3 or 2 points from the small exercises and 9 or 3 points from the big exercises. And how you get more bigger or smaller points is that there are 2 deadlines, and the first deadline is like 15 minutes before the exercise session. So if you return your exercise before that deadline, and then if you are physically there in the exercise session and you are ready to show to the class your solution, then you get the big points. And then there is another deadline, like in the following week, a little bit less than whole week, and doing there you can get the smaller points. So the idea here is that if you have challenges doing the exercises, you start before the test deadline, you do as much as you can, maybe you cannot get very far, then you come to the exercise session and you see at least 1 solution for each exercise. You maybe make notes, and I will also be there during the exercise meetings, and I can provide help, like one-on-one tutoring for those who actually need help. And hopefully with all that help, you can do all the exercises if you are ready to spend some time with those, and for the later deadline at least. And if you check the points and sum them together, you notice that you can still get the maximum amount of points from the second deadline if you do both the small and the big exercises. But the most important thing I would like to emphasize here is if you have any trouble or any questions, the exercise sessions, they will be pretty short time in the beginning where we check the solutions from, okay, you show the first, you show the second, you show the third, you show the fourth. And I try to keep that short so that those who don't have any trouble can then go do something more efficient with their time. And those who need help, I will be there to help you and walk you through and tell you how to do or solve your problems with those exercises. And you can also stay there and start working, or maybe you have already started working with the exercises for the next week, so you can also ask me help for those. So I try to be there and fix those often stupid little problems that take lots of your time because you cannot figure out what on earth is wrong with this. And then when you figure it out that, okay, that is the problem, and then you get working. So use the exercises to make sure that you don't waste your time with irrelevant problems. Yeah, so each exercise is a small program with a graphical user interface. There is textual description what to do, and there is a wireframe drawing on what the program could look like. The wireframe is not meant to be like copy this wireframe exactly. It's more like, okay, these are the logical elements of the graphical user interface. So take the wireframe as a wireframe, as an indication of what elements should be in the interface. And then you are free to use your own designer skills if you happen to have them, or yeah, usability principles, or just whatever to actually decide how the interface will be like. And I'm not evaluating the visual side or anything. I enjoy if your user interfaces look nice and well, usable and so on. Of course, the description tells already so much that the usability is maybe not really critical question. So here is a quick example. So on the left, we have a wireframe of a calculator. Then I have implemented it in the JavaFX, in React with Material UI, with tkinter, and with Android. So same program can look quite different even if they all follow the same wireframe. And what is an acceptable exercise solution? Unfortunately, of course, I don't have time to check each solution from each of you during the course, let alone give personal feedback, even if that would be the perfect world. So if you want some feedback on your exercises, just come to the exercise session and show them to me and ask me whatever questions you have. I accept the exercises as long as they implement kind of the described core functionality. I'm not checking that every little nuance mentioned there must exactly be followed, but the main idea in the exercise. So if some details are missing, but I see that you honestly tried to do the exercise, then it's not the problem. I won't be afterwards rejecting and giving 0 points if I see like honest attempt. But of course, if I notice plagiarism, so that you have copied your solution from somebody else, or basically submit an empty solution where I can see that there isn't an honest attempt, then that's a bad thing. Don't do that. And I can tell that luckily I haven't really seen that of things, like maybe just once or twice over these years. And there is great variability on how the actual solutions come out, and that's a good thing. At this point, these exercises are not specific that, okay, this is exactly what you should have when you come up with. They can be very different about how they look as an interface and especially how the code looks. And of course, I try to guide you towards the good principles, recommended ways to building interfaces. But yeah, at this point, there aren't really any clear, correct solutions. This is how it should be. There are lots of different ways to build these things. And so don't stress that, okay, I don't know exactly if this is exactly correct. There is no exactly correct. Then to exercise meetings. My suggestion, tell me if you have better ideas. We have primary round, so from starting 12:15, so when the exercise session starts, and for next half an hour, we look at the Java effects solutions. So we will see four solutions during that half an hour. And then similarly, 2:15, we will see 4 solutions of the React exercises. So, and again, half an hour. So depending on which track you are, come there to those slots. So either 12:15 or 14:15. But if you have trouble coming at those times, you have other lectures, you have other activities, then there is a secondary round. So at 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock, 1 o'clock for React and 3 o'clock for Java effects. That's another option when to come for the exercise session. So hopefully everybody can find a time slot when they can come and get those maximum points, because you need to be there and ready to present your solutions to get those maximum points. And this leaves times from 12:45 to 1 p.m. and 13:15 to 14:15 and 14:45, 15 and 15:15, 15:45. So quite a lot of time, which I will be there in the exercise room. And I will be available for you to ask questions, get help, and so on. So all times outside of these primary slots, starting 12:15 and ending 3:45, I will be there in that room. So utilize that time. And of course, these slides will be in the Moodle, and this information is available in the Moodle. So you can get there. But
What's the day?
this will be on Thursday. Yeah, so lectures are on Monday and Tuesday, and exercise sessions are on Thursday afternoon. And the grade for the course is based on the points you get from making the exercises. And remote participants will also get some points from the exam. They need to get certain amount of minimum points to pass the course, but then after that, the points in the exam affect the grade. In the Moodle, you can find table for the mapping of which amount of points equals to which grade. You must get 50% of the points to pass the course, and then like 90% of the points to get the maximum grade. Briefly, there is also possibility to do a project for additional 5 credit units. You can do that after the course, for example, during summer. Most popular timing is doing it during the summer. And you can decide the exact content of your project. It just needs to be some sort of reasonably complex graphical user interface, some hopefully real application. And you can decide when you want to do that, and you just write the project plan, and then I will approve it, and then you can start working. But that's like separate thing in the end of the course, so I will get back to that late. So overall, there's quite a lot of flexibility. But the key thing is that you need to do these weekly exercises, and that's how you learn, and that's how you get the points, and that's how you get the grade. I try to make the exercises visible soon. I will publish the first ones later today, even though you learn how to do those things tomorrow. And well, I try to make them available soon, but as I'm updating the tracks, I'm updating the exercises to some extent, and I don't have them all ready yet. But yeah, at this point, I'd like to know a little bit about your background. For example, what programming languages are you familiar with? How many of you know Java? Most of you don't. JavaScript. Yep. Python. C++. And well, of course, there are other languages like C#. I think there are some people, at least here, who know. But then, of course, it's a question how familiar you are with them. I think the range goes from like beginner, so that you have taken the basic programming course or a couple of them, and then to those who have been doing programming for several years and almost hear about the graphical user interface things. So this is about programming graphical user interfaces, and there are these tracks, but the same principles can be found in these different libraries and frameworks to build graphical user interfaces. You have different backgrounds, different interests. You can choose between these two tracks, which have different programming languages, and they also use different frameworks. So yeah, choose the one which is both interesting to you and you have enough prior knowledge. And of course, if you don't have much prior knowledge, but you are willing to work during the course, that balances it out quite a lot. So the tracks are Java, FX, and React programming. And with Java, you use this year this Java FX library using NetBeans IDE, integrated programming environments or development environment. So this is good for those who know Java programming. Java FX itself is quite mature and comprehensive graphical user interface library. It's definitely not new one, but it's newer than the Swing that has been used previously. It's a little bit of challenge that it used to be part of the Oracle's default Java distribution, but it's not anymore. There is a graphical user interface builder available for Java FX, so that you can just like drag and drop the interface. But I decided not to use it this year, so we are doing this all via programming. If you want to, you can use this interface builder. It's a separate download and separate tool. So that's why I, well, didn't want to include. You actually have to register as to the Oracle account and so on. So everything we are doing here, if it matters to somebody, everything we do in the Java programming is using the open source tools available. So you can use the OpenJDK. Well, NetBeans is kind of open tool itself, and Java FX is available as part of the, well, as an open publicly available distribution. So those are the reference solutions. We don't need to use the Oracle tools here. And then another track is using JavaScript programming language and using the React framework. And within that, we will be using Material UI user interface components and using Create React App toolchain as a development tool. So this is good for those who know JavaScript programming and basic HTML and CSS. course, React, you probably all have heard of React. It's used quite widely today in the industry. React approach to programming is a little bit different from most others, including JavaFX. I will talk a little bit more about, I think, tomorrow about that. And the thing is that React is also very rapidly evolving all the time. And one of the big changes recently is that there has been this move towards functional components, and with it has come these things called hooks. And I switched to those this year. Previously, I used the older traditional class-based components in the React development. So we are using only this modern solution this time. In principle, you can mix and match those two types of components, but because the material UI core, which we are using as the user interface library, has switched to the functional components and hooks kind of totally, I decided it's easiest to just use those newer solutions. But this means that when you go online and Google solutions for some of your React problems, you will find lots of the material for the old React approach and some material for the new React approach. So hopefully I am able to explain you the difference, and then you can notice, okay, this is the old stuff, I can ignore this. Or if you want to, of course, you can try to learn both at the same time. The very fundamental principles in the bottom are the very same, but like in the surface level, how you write the interfaces is a little bit different. And I think the newer one, at least the code is somewhat more compact. So there's really something that makes sense in this update. And if you are interested in why they have done these updates, the React team has published quite a lot of writings explaining the reasoning behind this new approach.
One thing, Ruby has a code workshop next Wednesday, and they asked me to teach how to use the IDEs like NetBeans.
Yeah.
So basically, if someone needs help to get those, I'll be teaching them. Well, Wednesday, 6 o'clock. No, 16 o'clock. And I think Mikko 40. But you can check from Ruby's webpage.
Yeah, maybe you can even mail to the Moodle discussion forum about this, so that those who are interested in get the information.
I can do it in English as well. I think yeah, we can do it in English. I usually ask.
Okay, that's good, because I won't be talking much about these tools and NetBeans in specific. I will be using it and showing it and talking some of the details which I use all the time, but not going into much into details. So yeah, do utilize this opportunity if you think it's useful for you. So NetBeans is used as the programming environment in my examples and my work, but of course you can do JavaFX programming with any programming tool, starting from the command line tools and other IDEs. So I'm not saying no if you have some reason to use other tools. It's your decision, of course. It's more work for you probably, but you can do that. And with React, we are using this Create React App toolchain, and just use your favorite text editor, the Node and Node Package Manager, used to install the tools and run the tools. I will publish instructions on how to install these tools and how to do the basic things. Maybe I have time to quickly show them, but they will be in the Moodle later today, I believe. about the course, so it's 5 credit units. So for average student, that should be like 135 hours of work. So we have 7 different modules, so 16 to 17 hours per each of these modules or topics. There will be 2 to 4 hours of lectures for each week. Maximum 2 hours worth of the exercise meeting for each student. So for the exercises, well, that's maybe a little bit unclearly written here, but so it's about 13 hours for each of the exercises that no, sorry. So yeah, 13 hours of working for the exercises each week. So that's the average calculation. So to give you some idea of how much work for an average student it should take. So small exercises should be 4 to 5 hours, and the big one about 13 hours. Of course, the actual programming will be much faster. They are not big programs. They are maybe 100 to 300 lines of code. Lots of that, maybe like semi-automatically created code or very repetitive code. So out of this 13 hours, you of course are spending quite a lot of time just reading materials and figuring out issues and so on. But it depends on each individual and working style, and also your learning goals, how carefully and what aspects you want to learn and how much you spend. And again, emphasizing that utilize the exercise sessions if you feel at any risk of spending lots of time figuring out some minor details or technical issues. Then about the learning goals. The learning outcomes mentioned in the curriculum say that when you complete the course, you know you have the fundamental knowledge, you have fundamental skills to implement graphical user interfaces. You know how to utilize the common interface components, and know and be able to utilize common graphical user interface software patterns. Those were written years ago, but I think they are quite valid today as well. So in the end of the course, you should be able to implement reasonably complex graphical user interface, utilizing at least one of the frameworks. So depending on track, you choose one or another. And you should also be able to follow kind of best practices of that framework. So yeah, use the framework the way it's supposed to be used. Those were the official ones and ones that I've been mostly trying to follow. What about you? Why are you here? What are your learning goals?
I just understood that I could get like some real coding to do here in this course. So like when many courses have like more of the theoretical stuff, and like these courses that have like real coding are more interesting. So yeah.
This seems to be something I was looking for, especially by like having the smaller exercises and that you have some kind of a guide what you should be doing, because with some courses you have some theory and then you have no intermediate step practicing the stuff, and then you're supposed to implement very complex and big project, and you don't have any practical experience when starting, so you don't even know where to start, how, and you have to research all the practices, tools, and whatnot. So I do quite like this approach.
Yeah, I think this should be quite practical and actual programming, and I consider this like a medium level programming course or average level programming course. So after the basic programming courses, but we are not very advanced here. It's quite practical. So yeah, those comments did sound like the course I'm trying to give you. And of course, we are talking about some generic principles, but we are approaching them from very practical programming point of view. How do you actually, what this actually means when you are writing a user interface. And yeah, this is a programming course. Programming is a skill. Most of the learning will be by doing it. So the weekly exercises, you program graphical user interface, and then by doing that, you learn to program graphical user interfaces. Once again, I'm emphasizing the same thing. If you feel like you are getting stuck in some small things, just come to the exercises. And I will hope that together we can fix that issue or find a solution much faster than you would by yourself. And as I said, you can start working on the following week's exercises already in the previous week. So then if we start looking at what are the actual things that we will be looking into, there are some key concepts that are there in the graphical user interface programming, and I will be discussing those principles, but with very concrete terms. I will be now next give an overview of these concepts, so this is maybe the highest level lecturing I will be doing. After this, it will be all on very concrete level. The most important concepts like events and doing layout and so on will be used across the course, and some concepts like 2D graphics, APIs, and internationalization and threads, they have only 1 week for them in the later part of the course. So components are one of the key concepts. Components are these user interface components. You build, of course, user interfaces out of these existing components. You have buttons, you have text fields, radio buttons, checkboxes, and so on. And we will utilize most of those during this course. Of course, we are not going through every one of them one by one, and there are different ones on different frameworks and so on. But we start easy with a few components and then add some more complex ones later on. Layout is, of course, another part of the user interface. You have the components, but you decide them how they are organized into the interface next to each other and group them together and so on. And the most challenging thing about layout on practical programming level is perhaps how to make the thing scale. So when you have like a computer desktop, you have a window, user scales that window to different shape or size. How do you create an interface which actually stays reasonably good looking and usable and so on without some components spreading to expanding too big or disappearing or something like that. Then thing that is invisible for the user but is very important for you is the concept of event. So events are in the heart of the graphical user interface programming. We will look at the most important ones early on and some others later on. So event is what happens when the user does something. When the user clicks the mouse, or when the user moves the mouse, or when the user's finger touches the touch screen or moves over the touch screen. All that is communicated through events from the operating system and the framework to you, the programmer, and then you react to those one way or another. course, these all frameworks, they implement some sort of application programming interface or set of them, those APIs. We look at them. We get some understanding of how these APIs can be designed or how they have been designed and how to use them. And then hopefully you will get a little bit of understanding that if one day you end up in a situation where you should be programming or creating an API yourself, what sort of things they are to consider. Programming models, look a little bit of this. There are different approaches, and the two tools we actually have, JavaFX and the React, have actually different approach into the or different programming model. So you will most of you will be exposed to only one approach, either the imperative approach of JavaFX or the declarative approach of React. Of course, there are lots of same things, but some fundamental differences. You can check the other lectures if you want to see how things are done in the other approach. We will look into 2D graphics APIs just for 1 week and just to get the very basic principles, but yeah, there will be some of those. And again, the 2D graphics APIs, they are something that they are quite standardized. The very same fundamental elements can be found across the different 2D graphics APIs, from the HTML canvas to the JavaFX drawing, and even the PDF file format internally has the very same basic graphical elements. Software architecture we will look at a little bit, not very much, not very theoretical level, but just mention and try to at least make sure you have some sort of idea what model view controller model, for example, is, and a little bit of some other things. And then we will look at the internationalization, so that implies like translation, localization, but sort of challenges there are, and luckily what sort of solutions there are. So there are some solutions that people have already designed, so that you just need to follow the templates on how to make an interface that's easy to translate to different languages. And reminder of what sort of things there are in the internationalization. We'll basically look at the date format, number format, there are different sorting rules, and in the, well, I don't want to use the extreme case, but one of the big differences, for example, is the writing order. So if it's the language of the interface is left to right or right to left, then actually if you want to properly internationalize an interface, then the interface should actually flip so that it follows the writing order of the language. We don't really go into that level, but just, at least I mentioned that. And then in the end, I will talk 1 week about threads and concurrency. So how the program can do several things at the same time. In our computers, we have multiple cores, and even if we hadn't have, it can be still useful to have the computer to do several things at the same time. And from the graphical user interface point, these have some specific key points. Of course, the whole parallel programming is a complex field of its own, and there are separate courses about that. And we don't worry about those complexities. We just talk about what it means from the point of the graphical user interface. And again, luckily, some reasonably smart people have designed good solutions on how to do this and how to avoid the trouble that you can get into if you just blindly start creating new threads and doing things at the same time on those. But yeah, so the course consists of these 7 different modules or 7 different topics, and there will be, well, basically 1 lecture for each track. and a set of exercises and exercise session where we discuss the solutions. So for each of these is the same template. This first week is a little bit different as said. So tomorrow I will be giving 2 lectures, one for both tracks. But after the next week it will be Monday and Tuesday for different tracks. So the modules are fun. This is the introduction and the basics. So today and tomorrow I will showing the basic programming, how to create a very simple interface in each of the tracks. Next week we will talk about layouts and styling and maybe a little bit about animations. So how to alter the way the program looks. Then models and software structure and a little bit about this multi-view controller on the third week. Models are maybe the most important ones, so that's how you can get more complex data inside these components. Fourth week is a mixture of lots of different things, looking at the resources, how to include pictures and icons and so on into your programs. Then we're looking at how to do undo, copy and paste, drag and drop, and some things like this. Little bit varied a little bit between the tracks, what exactly is there. Then fifth week is about the graphics and also printing. At least it's a Java track, I think. Sixth week is the internationalization. And the last week is about the threading and concurrency. And during these modules, I will also be introducing some new components all the time. So in the end, you should have tried out quite large set of user interface components so that you're able to implement quite complex interfaces. So any questions at this point? Are the arrangements clear enough?
How the exercise is supposed to be presented, as in do you have to prepare your own laptop to run them, or are they supposed to be run from the classroom's computer or something?
It's best if you can bring your own computer. So you just bring your own laptop and then we plug it into the projector. That is the most efficient way to go through the exercises so that there is minimum time used or necessary to figure out and copy files and open and see. It's getting a little bit challenging at times or at this point of programming because there are these dependencies and so on. But of course, I will have my own computer there with both tools for both tracks, and if necessary and you don't have your computer, then I will just download your solution from the Moodle and make that visible so that you can explain that. But when possible, please take your own laptop to the exercise sessions.
So the programming project is like if you want to have the extra 5 credits, and did we have like a normal exam after the course, or like for all?
No.
Okay.
So yeah, if you are not a remote participant, then there is no exam. It's all about the exercises.
Okay.
If I want to choose the React track, is it enough that I know JavaScript and will look at React?
Yes. I would say that at least if you are willing to work, if you know even the basics of JavaScript, that would be enough. Like basics of JavaScript and like the very basics of HTML and CSS, that should be enough. Of course, I don't assume you have any knowledge of React at this point, so I will be starting from the very basics when I start talking about React. And if you don't have any JavaScript skills, then you need to be prepared to work somewhat hard to actually learn the JavaScript, but I can provide help with that as well if somebody wants to take the React track without JavaScript background.
If I understand this correctly, so the Java lectures are on Mondays and JS on Tuesdays.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, starting next week. So this week, tomorrow we still have. Well, I think I will mention somewhere, but yeah, tomorrow I will start with the Java, and then so starting at Java 10:15, and then somewhere around 11 switch to the React track. So if you want to optimize your time tomorrow, that's for tomorrow.
And I can watch that later if I have another lecture.
Yeah, all this will be, unless I mess something up, all this will be recorded and published in the